we're rolling. Suds and ladies and dudettes, lady bro men, all of ya. This is Finding Home, where we are open, vulnerable, shameless about all the crazy and wonderful questions that run through our head, and we're just glad you get. Oh Jesus, we're glad you guys get to be a part of the conversation.
Stop saying the Lord's name in vain.
You know what? By God, amen. All right, and I guess we'll get going. I'm Seth Gorman.
Hi, I'm Diego.
Sweet. Glad you're participating.
I'm Annalise.
Hey, Annalise. And
Nicky
this
P.
is Nicky P.
How you doing?
Over down yonder. What's up, brother?
What does the P stand for, Nick?
Oh, that's a great start to.
Lead us in. Give us a story. Tell us what Nicky P is about.
It's Nicky Low P. He just likes to shorten it even more.
And I wish it was low P sometimes.
Yeah.
To stay out the way.
My dick's too big, man.
But I was blessed. But
Stay hard.
stay hard, dog. Ashwagandha, horny goat weed. Promote vitamins in our group.
Bro, why's your nickname Nicky P? Stop talking about it.
My nickname is Nicky P because when I was growing up, I wasn't circumcised. And like it first started like 6th grade. I was at some party, and I was like showering, and some kid hopped in, and he was like, he didn't hop in, he like came to the bathroom, and like the shit wasn't. He was like, "What the fuck is wrong with your dick?" I was like, "I'm not cut. My dad's from Europe, dude." And I was like, "Fuck off."
He's like,
Little weirdo. I literally said it to him like that, and he was like, and then he just went away and he just told everyone, and I was like, and they were like, pull back, and I was like, "I'm Nicky P, bitch. You can't stop this shit. I'm European on you." Like, I would just like, so then I would like go off on people about it, and people like really liked it, and they got a kick out of it.
Oh my God.
So it carried over in high school.
You know, kudos for taking that
and
damn near traumatic situation and just making
but
it.
I'm not Nicky P. I got circumcised when I was 19 because I ripped my dick inside somebody.
Oh shit. That sounds like it hurts
That's
all the
nice.
way through the process.
Dude, it was crazy.
Yeah. I'm still thinking of the dude just sitting down on the toilet and he's like, "Ah, where's your dick?"
See, normally people
Like-
are either circumcised at birth or
Yeah.
like they're like, "Wow, I'm getting circumcised today." Nick had no idea. He's just
Yeah.
like, it's like today, tomorrow, completely different
Yeah.
days.
It was crazy.
It's crazy. All right, cool. Let's pick one of these bad boy topics out of the bowl. Who wants to do the honors?
I'd like to do
Yeah,
that.
Nick hasn't done it yet. Oh man.
Love and relationship.
Love and relationships.
Don't know nothing about it.
Yeah, man.
Next
It's a
question.
weird world. Holy shit. You know, I was feeling at some point we were going to pull that one, but I'm like, that's a fucking deep conversation.
Dig.
All right.
Yeah. Huh? What?
I had some. Wait, hold on. I had
Go
some.
ahead.
I remember when we
Alright.
when we had the idea of love and relationships, I put little side notes on it as questions. So let me go
Yeah, please. 'Cause
find that. Do you have the list?
I do not. Love and relationships.
Someone's got it on their phone.
That's the one we pulled out?
Mm-hmm. So.
Oh wait, I found it. Okay, just go. I'll
I
find
was
it.
just gonna say, in terms of love and relationship, two very different things. You can be in a relationship. There's different kinds of relationships, and then there's different kinds of love. So obviously there's like the paternal and
Right.
child relationship. Even same thing like grandparents to children, that relationship, friends, teachers, mentors, all different kinds of relationships. And then love. In terms of what they kind of have in common, it is all I want to say in the least selfish way possible. It's all to benefit you as a person. Not saying people get in relationships to benefit themselves, but the goal of both of those ultimately is you became a better person at the end than when you started. You learned more perspectives, you learned more understanding, you came out of it a more patient person, because not everybody is you, and that's kind of learning through a bunch of relationships. If we're talking like, I was gonna say paternal, I don't know why. God, what is it when it's like a love relationship? What's the name?
Intimate?
Yeah.
In terms
Romantic,
of like,
whatever.
romantic or intimate relationships and love, on the same scale, but this one obviously goes a little bit deeper. This is someone that you fully open yourself up to, fully dive into, and learn not only more about yourself, but more about them in the process. So
Yeah.
it's always about understanding who you are because you always will think you're right until you say what you believe in front of someone whose opinion you actually care about. And
Right.
and then suddenly you sound like the stupidest person on earth. So it's just humbling yourself. I think that's what relationships will do.
Well, because I think get on that point, that's what relationships do, is they put especially a romantic relationship where you do the boom boom with this person, that's a very emotional sort of, not even sort of, I realize I say and sort of a lot, so I'm trying to work on it.
Exchange of energy though.
Yes, and it's an exchange of energy, and also a point at which your energies are united for a moment. I guess if the sex is good, if it sucks and your energy's probably not into it, but if you're having a good one with somebody that you actually love and care about, it's you do that thingy, and then you lay afterwards with that person, and then you just talk to them. At least I hope most relationships do this. It's felt very healthy in my life. But you talk to them, and you just have these deep, intimate conversations, because it's you've already been inside one another. So what more do you have left to hide from them? And it's just they learn all these things about you, and they learn to know you. Especially if you do it enough times, and you're just around them enough, and you just start talking to them just because they're there.
Start talking like them.
Yeah, you start talking like them. You both have your own sort of secret code and mannerisms and ways of speaking to each other that you don't speak to anyone else
do you have a certain boundary before you let yourself do that with somebody though?
And that's what I was getting at, is that's
most of the time I don't experience that.
Right, because that takes
I leave.
It takes an ultimate sense of vulnerability and trust within that person to divulge that stuff, especially if you're somebody that's been fucked over before and you've had a rough going about, and you just have some trauma that you got to deal with. You have maybe your parents weren't very open and honest, so they weren't very trusting, made you not very trusting. Anything can stem to make you be a person.
I'm so untrusting in that aspect that I grew up not even being able to grasp why I would logically want to be vulnerable with someone instead of hooking up with them and both of us going our ways happily.
Right.
I was so used to that.
And then
when I experienced that, it was that intimacy for the first time with someone. It was ecstasy.
Shit hits different.
It was complete ecstasy because it was probably prolonged, because I was it was past high school where I really felt like that about someone. I guess you said I dated people, but not this person. But,
I mean, that's why we never forget the first person that we really loved. Whatever that feeling is in your chest.
It was a short Spanish girl I dated in college for a little bit. And then it was a tall girl. But I guess there's that thing about the first one. Yeah. I feel for me it's more the person I've experienced with the most that I don't forget the most.
That you spend the most time with, or that
just the person you experience the most, the person that
whoever has the most impactful experience upon you as
and whoever got to learn the most about deeply.
And does that go for lovers, or is it more for a friends thing too?
More lovers, friends.
Yeah.
Friends are different.
Yeah.
Friendships all are awesome, but they
friendships
evolve differently. Each of them evolves.
They evolve differently, and the boundaries evolve differently as friends grow, and it's just but they're different. But they're different boundaries that you have to discuss. Usually with a romantic partner, the boundaries that you set with them, there's a lot of the same ones that are for your friends, but there's some exclusive ones that are added. It's like a boundary of trying to create the least amount of boundaries between you.
It's usually you can't touch anybody besides me.
Yeah.
That's the defining one. That's the biggest one.
And I think what people feel that way. I especially.
That goes into monogamy though.
It does, and I think there's a lot of reasons why people feel that way, and the first thing people jump to is jealousy for wanting something or someone to just be completely just with them. I guess for me, it's that the romantic energy that I feel and the romantic energy that I provide is it's a large amount of energy from me, and it's just I want to give that to you, and it's it goes back to the thing of just holding it sacred. We had that conversation the other day about just holding things sacred, and it's just one of those things that some people find the most sacred thing is if you save your highest and deepest level of intimacy for me because that's where I want to be with you.
And it also has to go back to the energy thing is
right. But
for me personally, I feel like it's you made this commitment to each other that you know you'll stay faithful, you'll be loyal,
right.
but it's also you kind of acknowledge that your energy is intertwined at this point. So if you're constantly exchanging this energy with someone, and then they go and decide to exchange energy with someone else, number one, it doesn't feel sacred anymore. It doesn't feel special or intimate anymore. And not only that, it's like
whatever flame was there got kaputted.
Yeah,
and it's hard to light that back up once it got kaputted.
If you feel like your energy is worth giving out to other people, anyone, whoever, then it's never going to be special between you and that person ever again.
Right.
And that's I think the biggest thing is just also because when you exchange energy with someone, it also affects your personal energy. So if you're constantly exchanging energy with this one person, you made this commitment that it's just the two of you, and then they go and exchange energy with somebody else, their energy is now different.
Right.
So then when you go to exchange that same energy with the person you've made this commitment to, it's not going to be the same. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, like, because you'll have some people that feel, I only want you, and they both feel mutually about it, and it's very easy that way. And typically those make pretty good relationships. Usually when somebody's asking for it, they're either asking it from someone who doesn't really want to reciprocate it, or they do initially, but then they kind of change their mind down the road, or the person asking isn't good within their own word to follow the boundary that you set for them. Like they don't make it a two-way street, and like those are the relationships that get really ugly. I think. And
there's that common excuse where it's like, well, with this person it wasn't really exchanging energy, it was just like hooking up. But it's like you can't decide what it is, it dependent on each moment. Oh well, with you it's exchanging energy, but with this person it's just hooking up. You can't be nitpicky. It's either you believe it's an exchange of energy or you don't. You can't say with you it is, with them it's not.
And the hard thing is like attraction and like sexual preference is definitely not a unified thing. Like it's so all over the board for like how people view sex and like their energy towards sex, and like that stems a lot from how we learned about it and how we sort of had it portrayed to us as we were growing and learning what sex is. And it's like these foundations are so important to understand about yourself. Like remembering back to your childhood is something a lot of people block out because it's most of the time, I think a lot of people have traumatic childhoods for the most part. Like we all see some shit.
Gotta unlearn.
Right, and you gotta unlearn, but as you unpack it, you need to go through each piece and understand why you're unpacking it and what's possibly going to be at the end of this, and be like, oh, okay, and just lay all the pieces out in front of you and say, okay, this is everything that happened. It wasn't about me. And I can move on because it's in the past. Like, and I can just be a different person. And I don't have to let that affect me. Like, you got to do the whole process. You got to do the whole process. And I think a lot of us get caught up in wanting just like an easy fix because we live in the Western world. It's an easy fix world. And it's just like, you can't pop a pill for trauma, and you can't just, pray externally for something to change. Like, you have to dig within yourself, and that there are certain drugs that can help with that. Like psychedelics are popular because they do help with that thing. They drive you within yourself. But you can do it through meditation. You can go to therapy. You can watch YouTube therapy for free. I've done plenty of videos on just like you get good advice, and you're like, wow, like I was just driving in my car. Now I think a little bit differently. Now I can kind of change my life. It's like you gotta allow yourself to be healed. Like you have to open yourself to that.
I think the past is like the biggest thing that frustrates me with a lot of like people's relationships, is because there will be people who genuinely are uncomfortable that their significant other has loved someone else before them. But I just don't understand that, because it's like they knew people before you. They felt that intertwining of energy with someone else before you. That doesn't mean they don't love you in a different way. I think they're just insecure.
A lot of those people are.
No, you go ahead, bud.
I have a few friends like that, and like I've just had talks with them, and ultimately we just come down to the bottom of it. That, like they're just people with those perspectives aren't really experienced that much. I would say, because they're like they don't understand like they think like it's more emotional than it is. Because ultimately, when we do leave partners, when we realize like, oh, it's not the person, and like you have that mindset like maybe I'd hook up with them again, like that shift happens from like love actually very fast, and like people don't realize that like just because you fell out of love fast doesn't mean there wasn't love there.
Well,
I think that's kind of what you're saying, Annalise, because it's like we all judge each other because like society makes us judge each other, but it's like we all have more or less partners compared to someone for multiple reasons, and it doesn't really matter as long as you vibe with that person and you're both and you both can accept what you've done. Because like that's what like really seems to like make people like ride for each other is like when you can accept the shitty in that person is like really important. Because that shitty doesn't go away. That aspect of that person is still there. So like you have to like, be willing to keep that person that you know your partner doesn't like about themselves in check. And like when you do that with each other, you're like golden. It seems like.
And that's the whole point of
like gay, lesbian, fucking straight. When people do that, in friendships too, it's really good because like you said something. It's like I'm just really vulnerable because when someone becomes my friend, they can't hold anything against me because I'm just gonna be who I am, and I've stated that, and they know that.
And that's the biggest like thing. Some people treat relationships like I love this person for who they are. Some people treat relationships like I love this person for who they could be, their best selves in the future.
Yeah, you can't love people based on potential.
The most important, I think the healthiest relationships are when you value both. You love someone for who they are right now, for how they're growing right now, but you also love them for wanting to be the best person they can be and what their potential is. I don't think it has to be either or. I think there has to be a balance of loving them now and loving them.
Why would you not love someone? Like, how could you love somebody who you think doesn't have potential?
Well, here's the thing that makes it hard.
Exactly.
Those things are very intertwined because we are always developing into our potential. At all times, we're developing into our potential. And so, like, when you look at somebody's potential and you look at who they are, like, they're very close together. And it's easy once you get into a groove with that person to be a certain way with them. And all it takes is a small switch in your mind from thinking that you're supporting who they are so they can become who they need to be, or you're carrying this person along because you believe in what they can do. Like, it changes how you treat them. But if you treat them as the prior, you'll have a much better friend at the end of it, I think, because most people will get to a point in their potential where they will realize who's been carrying them along, who they've been carrying along, and who's been pushing them around. And then they'll start to cut things out. They'll start to cut things out and they'll cut you out. And you would have invested time and energy in that friendship, but because you saw them as an object rather than a person,
and that friendship,
they cut you out.
That friendship aspect is extremely important because if you love someone as a significant other, as a partner, but you also love them as a friend, number one, when you're talking to them, they can speak with you emotionally because they're your significant other. But they can also speak to you logically as if they're your friend. They don't have to respond to everything emotionally. They can bring out that more friendship aspect of your relationship and speak with you logically about things, which is super important because same thing, it's balance. If you have someone who only reacts emotionally or someone who only reacts logically, there's always a lot of problems.
Right.
Whereas if you have that balance and it's both, you have the best of both worlds.
Most people don't though. Like I agree, but I feel like people have like a balance of like they'll be together, but either they'll be like a really romanticized relationship to where it's like the romance is stressful on the couple to where they're like fighting and then they're romantic and having.
Can you go deeper into
romantic sex? Like literally responding to everything romantically, like waking up.
Define romantic action.
Waking up every morning, constantly expressing love, like overly expressing love. That's what I'm saying. Like that's what.
What's a healthy level of love versus overly expressing love?
It's all.
Like
give
a wake up
person. But
right. Okay. Like we'll talk about a 7-day stretch. Over that 7 days, what do they do when they wake up in bed together? What's overly loving and what's healthy love?
For me, it's just like draping somebody with compliments and things like that. Like just awing over me. I don't like that. Like being.
It's so beautiful.
Like putting the future in the light so heavily to where I can't even live in the moment with you constantly. Like expressing to me how gorgeous our kids will be all the time. Things like that.
Have you guys seen the video Good Morning Julia?
No.
But can you look up Good Morning Julia? Please, you'll love it, I swear.
Some people I've noticed in other relationships and a few of my friends, like they they can't get past, like, they started off as friends who fucked, and a lot of the times they can't get past that while they're dating.
Facts.
So
It seems like like those are two hard struggles.
Is this dude?
like they were friends with benefits and then they weren't anymore.
And then they developed into like a relationship. It's like a hard transition.
Hey, I'm sorry to cut you off, Nick, but
Good morning, Julia.
Who is this?
Joe.
He got some girl's number, and this is what he did to her at like 6:30 in the morning. He
Tell
sent her
you
this
that meeting
video.
you yesterday and getting a look at you was probably one of the greatest moments of my life. You were so beautiful. You don't know how beautiful you are to me.
Oh my god.
She's like 19. He's like
Gorgeous,
45.
precious. And but it's been sitting in my mind when you said to me you want to go back with your ex-boyfriend. Please erase him from your memory. Don't ever go back in the past. I know, because I've been there. And I understand when, you're trying to find somebody and you go on dates and nothing compares to your ex. But there is that better person out there. And Julia, I promise you it is me. I will love you like you've never been loved before. I will cherish you. I'll
This
make you
man's like
feel
marrying
a
them.
real woman. And believe me, after you experience me, you won't even know who your ex-boyfriend is. So, open up your heart to me in your arms. Let's go full throttle.
Full throttle.
I can see me falling in love with you.
But you.
You just sound
So Italian, dude, holy shit.
Melt. Anyhow, I'm heading off to work. This is my cute little home. Everything you see behind me, I built everything. Every square inch from crown molding to chair
Just keeps
rail
going.
to floors to lighting to plumbing, doors, windows.
You just had to add like, yeah, I
this
do a
is
lot
the
of
type
things.
guy you get. I'm a very handy guy, and
I do a lot of things.
I'd love to build you whatever you want.
I go to work, I build things.
You're a sweetheart. So, I hope this video doesn't scare you. That's how I feel.
Freaking the fuck out. I'm like, this is crazy.
Okay, I look forward to going out to dinner with you. So, let's make it happen. Mwah. Ciao, baby.
Now see
So
that.
so the reason
that is-
that's why I wanted to show that is
That's what I'm talking about.
that's overly loving.
Yes.
So that's too much.
It's like it's like when someone knows exactly how you feel, like you don't need to tell them that all the time because it's just fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like it's great the first time it comes out of someone's mouth, but then I'm like,
I think love is
for
somebody.
the 11th time today you love me? I don't know.
Love is somebody
I'm
that
not
you just
really
want to
nice
text
though
in the
like
morning
that.
and say good morning, butthead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you lose that, it's
You just call him a different. You just call him a different name every day and see which one's
I like
worse.
making fun of the
like,
people that I'm close with.
Morning ass hat. And they're like, what
I
the
don't
fuck?
go as far as ass hat, but that's definitely
No, but like
something I do.
they're like,
I
why?
used to be mean and she wouldn't get it though.
No.
Like I'd
That's
be like,
not-
yeah, you're a fucking loser.
No, you
That's
gotta
why.
walk the line. You can't be like, sup, bitch, like at 3 a.m. Like she'll
What?
be mad.
Diego
Like,
does that though. Is that not
all
good?
relationships
I do
are
it-
different.
Yeah, I do it purely for the meme, but it's just so funny because her face like just looks at me and she's like, you know what you just said, and like I do it for that face every time.
I like
The
saying
question is,
fucking
Annalise,
loser.
This is a
the
whole
question is,
other-
Annalise, do you like being called a bitch?
No. Okay, no, because I know when he
Answer the
says
question.
it, when
Answer the
he-
question.
Yes or no?
When
Yes
he
or no?
Yes or no?
no.
Okay.
Wait. Did you say did I like it?
Do you like being called a bitch?
Yes, only because I know when Diego says it, he's not actually calling me a bitch. He's saying it like, it's a bitch. Like, like it's like a joking, we
Yeah,
can
it's a
joke
Florida
around,
thing.
he loves me, like,
Sure.
we're good. Stop, no way.
No, she's talking about the Florida thing. I was like, sure, I don't know.
But like,
Sup,
so I
bitch?
like it, because we
Sup,
kind of have that
bitch?
relationship.
Bitch is endearing.
We kind of have that
endearing term.
relationship where he can
That's not
just be
bitch.
like, sup, bitch.
It just depends on which syllable you emphasize, or like, you can, bitch, like that's like, oh fuck.
Even I was offended.
You know what?
I'm not gonna lie, that threw
Yeah.
me. I was like, jeez.
When you're like fucking bitch, like
so
that's
hard.
that's aggressive. But if you're like sup bitch, and that feels more lighthearted.
Hey yo, bitch.
Nope.
Yeah.
Just a whole bunch of bleeps. No,
Hang.
just leave it.
Yeah, we're not monetized. It's okay.
No, yeah, but I don't know. So I wouldn't say I like it or dislike it. I enjoy when we can joke around like that.
Yeah.
Because if it was just serious all the time
Yeah.
and I got genuinely upset every time you said that, I think that would be really annoying. So
So for love and relationships, I'll read off the things that I had. Wait, there was building and giving trust, rebuilding trust after it's broken, acceptance and humility, compromise versus alternative solutions, and then we touched on monogamy and polyamory.
But Diego, give them your take on compromise. What do you think compromise is necessary in a relationship?
Compromise is such a stupid freaking word.
What would you rather call compromise?
Diego hates the word compromise.
What do you replace compromise with?
Alternate solution.
Alternate solution. Like a better solution. Like a...
But tell them why.
Like a other option. So essentially the word compromise, very negative connotation to it. Why? Because it involves sacrifice. Now, some people believe that every relationship, like, to grow you have to sacrifice things.
Yeah.
But I think that's such... I just don't like the wording. The wording, it just sounds off. Like something is not right there.
Yeah.
So it's like nobody should have to sacrifice anything. They can be who they are without cutting away to please somebody else, which is what I believe sacrifice in that relationship sounds like. So rather than doing that, just letting
Do you think compromise and sacrifice are the same thing?
I believe that compromise includes sacrifice. So
right.
I don't like the word compromise because I believe that the negative connotation that it carries is making it sound like, okay, let's compromise. Like, you don't like this, I don't like this. Let's figure out some way so we can just stop being mad and find like a neutral standpoint.
But neither of you are fully happy.
Yeah, exactly. But you guys are settling for each other, which in turn like hurts your connection for each other. So it's just like you guys should just grow in both directions and be like, great example. If she's like,
I want to spend more time with you, and you want to play more video games. That was the one you did last time.
It's such a weird one. Because you can do both at the same time. No, I was just saying because you can do both at the same time. True. But like if she's like, hey, I want to watch a movie, and I'm like, hey, I want to read a book. Yeah. We can figure out a way for her to watch her movie and for me to read my book and still be together. Like, so throw on some headphones and I'll be be quiet.
You'll still have the physical closeness necessary.
Exactly. So neither one of us compromised anything.
Right.
I got to watch my movie. You got to read your book.
So is that considered a compromise? I don't think so. I think that was. I think that is considered just a better solution.
That is an alternate solution, but I think
one that involves like.
But I think
infinite solutions. One of them involves both people not being as happy as they should. One involves people being as happy as they should, like as they could in that situation. And so like, it's just whichever one you choose to vibrate to, whichever one you choose to find. Yeah. And that's the one you will find. So I feel like people just settle. They compromise their own time because they don't want to continue to have this conversation with this person and actually figure out what the hell they want versus like, oh, I want something that you don't want, you want something that I don't want. It's like this constant battle. Yeah. So, screw compromise. Ban it from the dictionary.
Well, I think you really, and it's good that we're talking about this because you do have to pull apart what compromise actually means to you. Because like when you pulled apart compromise, what fell out was sacrifice. You're like compromise requires sacrifice. It's part of it.
That's my perception.
But like if you're going to change the word compromise, you got to change sacrifice to something else. So like, when you're making a sacrifice, it's as if you're losing something. But if you see it as just an experience thing, like if you see the bigger picture of life and you're like, okay, this is just an alternate experience. Yeah. Like a sacrifice is basically an exchange for an alternate experience. Like because you're trying to get a different outcome than what you want. That's the only reason we'd make any sacrifices is to get a different outcome than what we originally had planned, and then we were forced into a situation to change. And it's like, sometimes we do things that are good for us, sometimes we do things that are bad for us, but,
That's okay.
That's alright. That's alright. See, you gotta think about good and bad and all that stuff. Like, what does that mean? That's perception, too.
This shit is relative as fuck.
It's relative. It's very relative.
Oh, yeah. To tell somebody, like, that's bad.
Yeah.
Ooh. It might not be bad. Like, there's things that are obviously bad, but, like, what is bad and good is so different for everybody, bro. Mm-hmm. Very different. Because, like, our minds, the way society tries to make us think, it's like, oh, I'm ahead of this with this person because I did this thing and I succeeded in this aspect. It was like, you don't know shit about that person. Facts. Like, you don't know what the fuck they just did 10 minutes ago. And why are you thinking about them instead of being on your own hustle? Yeah. I'm very comparative creatures in that sense. And when we tame that, it's really funny.
Oh, that's a big part for
like it's funny because it works.
Love and relationships is comparison. Like
Yep.
if you live your, I try not to live my life comparatively. I mean, I do it constantly, but like I always try to be aware of when I'm comparing myself to something else, and it's made my life better for sure. I think when you stop comparing yourself to others, like you just learn to look more inward and kind of step into who you are, and then once you kind of step into who you are, you're like, okay, like these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like, and you start to change your reality a little bit because you're just like, you know what, I'm doing this for me, and like, that it's okay to be a little selfish. It's okay to be completely selfish, but as long as your pursuit within your selfishness is for something greater than yourself, then I think you'll do okay. It's just like, it's when you're doing it for yourself, because of yourself, because you're the center of the universe, that's when you can become a little stuck up in your ways.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna say earlier when you guys were going off about it, I was like, go, like, preach. But I was always I had in the back of my head that like the most important relationship you can have is one with yourself,
right?
And loving yourself to your fullest extent. You can only love somebody else to the as much as you love yourself. You only have so much love to give.
Right.
You can either give it to yourself or give it to someone else. It's like you have infinite love always. Yeah. But like people tend to put a cap on it.
Right.
Whereas like you can always be loving and always just like let just like great feelings just like kind of wash over you like constantly. Like choose to feel like that. Easier said than done, of course. But everybody has that ability. And you just have to understand yourself and love yourself enough to even know that, and have such a great relationship with yourself. Like you should know not only what you say but why you said it. Yeah. If you're just talking out of your ass subconsciously, you should, take a step back and be like, hey, let me focus on what the hell I'm freaking talking about. Like, have this relationship with yourself, to where you actually understand yourself and you actually like yourself. They say, Jim Carrey says depression is you not wanting to live this character anymore. Yeah. But still being in the character. Yeah, exactly. But being forced to be in the character, like. Yeah. And that's why people obviously choose suicide and stuff like that. Not only do they can have endless love from people around them, but it's how you choose to love yourself. Yeah.
Well, I think all of that ties into like how sometimes we have this ego death, this sort of death of self, and I think you can get that from a number of ways, infinite ways of life.
DMT, man.
DMT will do it, but this sort of ego death, at least in a small portion, like it just makes you look at yourself differently, and like that's the moment that you realize it's all a bigger picture, that there's a bigger picture to this thing, and you're like, oh, it's not exactly all about me.
I'm pretty sure that like people like our ego deaths, they come in so many different ways. They're so shocking. Yeah. They do, but they're also pretty similar, much a bunch of embarrassing moments. Yeah. They're just embarrassing moments for all of us that force us to look at who we are. Yeah. It's the moments that make us feel so crazy the next time we look in the mirror after, during it, while it's happening.
It's the hits that crack the shell.
That part of me is actually a part of me, and it sucks. Yeah. That's part of me because that's shitty. Yeah. And that is the hardest thing we usually have to deal with ourselves. Because like when we change that, it's really beautiful. But how hard it is to change that, it could take a long time. Yeah. It's just embarrassing moments. Yeah. That's how I feel like. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. It's in a way it is an embarrassing moment. However you experience it, it's just like when you think you're hot shit and you're walking around, and then you just like trip over your own shoelace and smack your face on the ground. You're like, not that that's ever happened, but I see it clearly happening to thousands of people a day. It's gotta happen all the time.
It has happened to you before?
I've never fell flat on my face, but like I've tripped over my own feet so many times just by just slugging around for a minute and not being conscious of where I was going. Sometimes I act like a bull in a china shop if I'm not tired. I just run into shit. Fuck. Like, and I don't have bad vision. Like I just broad shoulders and I just lean one way or another.
Injury statistics law firm. Oh, that's right. Every law firm would have to have a record of everybody that ever got like seriously hurt from falling down.
Probably a lot of old
Slip
people.
And fall accidents.
Yeah.
But like enough to like call a lawyer, I guess.
Yeah.
Americans suffer a slip, trip, and fall. Oh, I mean, if someone dies and it's like, oh, they literally just fell and smacked their face or whatever. But according to the CDC, over 1 million people suffer a slip, trip, and fall injury, and over 17,000 people die in the U.S. annually because of these injuries. So 17,000 people die because
from just falling down. Is it, and like, does it give a statistic?
Which is like so I apologize.
If you have any loved ones that have fallen and died from falling,
it's just it's an
trigger
absolute,
warning.
Yeah, it's absolute crazy statistic. I didn't even, it was that high, which is crazy. But God bless.
God bless all those who fall down. But we're all falling down constantly. It's like we don't live standing up. Like we're either laying down or we fall down. But sometimes when you fall down, you just lay there for a minute because like it jars you.
Even though like we have the like option to stand, like we would sit. It's natural to conserve energy.
Mm-hmm.
We would just sit or lay down or like rest like constantly, hang off stuff. So
we'd just be chilling.
Yeah, like all the time, and then we'd be like, now we're hungry, and then we go get food and welcome to the
water
United States. Yeah, and then water. Welcome to the United States. Damn, the human race.
I heard a guy.
Welcome to the United States.
I heard a guy talk about. That's so funny. I was listening to an Aubrey Marcus podcast, and I'm terrible with names. I'm still trying to learn how to remember important people's names. But this guy, he's like this dude from South Africa. Spent like 40 days in the wild just by himself. And he was what you just described was him describing the 4 thoughts a rhino thinks in a day. It's just like rhino is sleeping. Rhino wakes up and it's like eat, and it just goes and eats, and it's like water. He goes and drinks water, and it's like sleep, and it's like female. Like those are the 4 thoughts of a rhino.
That's 5.
No, I said the same one twice.
No, you didn't.
I did a cycle. I said sleep, eat,
sleep,
water,
eat,
sleep,
water,
female.
Oh yeah, you did say sleep.
You said wake up.
Oh, wake
You
up.
eat, take a nap, you wake up horny. That's how it works. Like I had a lot of carbohydrates. All the dudes ready to go.
Think like that. That's funny.
Huh?
I was like, I know humans who think
Yeah, it's
like
literally their conscious brain. Little horn dogs. All y'all fucking. That's why there's so many of us. And counting. We just popping out babies like it's all business.
I have people that go to the gym.
Fucking is the most universal thing now.
All the time.
Yeah.
Which is funny to say.
Yeah,
like rolling it off the tongue. That's crazy.
Yeah, people really gotta institutionalize themselves to learn to hate it. Like you really gotta get deep in the thicket of structure.
Yeah, or
before you're like, sex is just a bodily thing we do to reproduce. It's not for fun.
Nah, it's the most like yearning thing we have.
Yeah.
In our brain.
Yeah, we have literal compasses that reach out and point for the stars. And it's like, go get it, man.
I don't believe it doesn't matter like if your partner and you don't have good sex. People are like, your partner is your partner, no matter of these things, and I was like, no. Not like that just doesn't seem reality.
Well, sometimes maybe that's how polyamory starts. It's like it gets to 2 people who really like each other as people, and they really like being around each other as partners. But they're like they don't sexually attract each other very much, and sometimes they just explore. They're like, hey, like I still love you, but we're both mutually not feeling this. Like, should we just try stuff with other people?
Is that a friendship though? This is a friendship.
I think it would take a deep friendship to be like that, especially if you're staying together for the connectedness of that friendship. Like, if your friendship is so important to you that, like, you know, you're like, but friendship, like, you're romantic and then friendship becomes the most important thing to you. It's like, we're just really good friends and we like being around each other, but it's just like, they just both give up on the sex thing. I don't think it happens that often, but I think some people get to that point, and I think it creates healthy polyamorous relationships with, I think all of that's based on mutual agreements. I think when you have mutual agreements, it's the healthiest, but when some person's making the deal and seeing it as a sacrifice and taking it really as a sacrifice, like, it's gonna erode away and it's gonna cause some resentment, I think. So it's like, you gotta stop seeing it in sacrifices, especially if you really wanna be with that person. You're like, okay, let me play out like how I think the next 10 years will go with this person. And if you don't know what that is and that excites you, then good. But if you also kind of see it and you're worried, that's a thing. You know, if you see it and then you're just like, I don't know, it looks good, I think it's great. But at the same time, you can also just be like, I don't know what any of it holds, but I feel good right now. And you can live like that too. Like, there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about this, and however you do is just going to create a different experience for you. That's why relationships are so complicated, because two people can be crossing paths, but it doesn't mean they're on the same one. And yeah, that's a learning curve that I've had to get past in my dating life for sure. I've had 2 very long relationships. You know, they were great in their own way, and at the same time, like, they weren't, because a part of me wasn't jiving with how it was going, and it's like I had to have some sort of boundary in my life, and it's just like it was sometimes a miscommunication of boundaries, but once the boundaries were all established, it's just like I can't really compromise to where your boundaries are compared to where my boundaries are, because it's just like, and everybody should deserve their own boundaries, and I think when 2 people's boundaries don't align, then it's probably best to just you know, make light heart of what that relationship is, but move on to someone who can respect your boundaries more, you know? Sometimes not respecting boundaries isn't out of, like, malicious intent. It's just that, like, I have a certain boundary, and that doesn't allow me to respect the boundary that you keep. And, you know, that's okay. But you gotta be willing to move on. You gotta love yourself enough to get up and walk away if you need to. Because that's love.
Facts. Respect yourself enough to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
See, respect yourself enough to walk away, but do it with that person in mind.
Yeah.
Don't leave them with the trauma. Leave them with a respectful and friendly lesson of why you're going away. Don't just run off, because it doesn't create good everlasting relationships that way. Because I'm not friends at all with the 2 4-year relationships that I had. Just like, they just didn't end very good. They didn't end in a healthy way.
I couldn't sit down and talk to the person I dumped and give them a lesson.
Well, you don't want to see it as giving them a lesson. You want the whole experience to be a lesson for both of you, so that, like,
it is either way, whether it ends toxically or not.
Right, but I'm just saying, don't be the toxic one.
You can't always, like, what is that though? Like, not being the toxic one. Like, you might be.
I feel like people that are toxic are like,
everyone perceives that differently.
The avoidance of closure is toxic.
I think what he's talking about is the end. Is if you're the type of person that's gonna, like, send a text message and be like, peace, after a long-term relationship.
Yeah, like, you've
like,
been with them for 2 years and you break up with them over a text and never see
you.
you.
At least have the
If
respect.
I walk up to your face and I tell you that.
No.
And I don't want to sit there and watch you fucking mow.
No, but that's part of growing up. That's part of having responsibilities. You made this commitment with someone. You acknowledge it's a responsibility. If you're gonna end that commitment because you think it's best for you, right on, do it. But also keep in mind that it's a whole other human being's life that you are altering. And if you're not gonna have the respect for them to at least sit down and have that conversation, then you shouldn't have gotten in that relationship in the first place.
Yeah.
Unless something
there
really
is no
fucking shitty
conversation
happens,
anymore though.
I think
there should be.
There could be.
Yeah.
There could be.
What I think it is the most unproductive thing. I'm not saying you can't talk to that person again, but right when you first break up with them, to, like, trying to be talking about logic and reason.
But
that would help them
better
I'm not
understand.
saying as a lesson. I'm not saying a lesson in logic and reason. I'm saying it's an emotional lesson.
People sit there and they're like, I want to know why and, like, the reason behind it. They're not gonna understand it.
No, they might
Depending
not
on the level
understand
of-
it, but
right.
at least you had the respect to try and let them know this is what I have to do for me. I love you. I think you're a great person, but for my best benefit, this is what I have to do. At least have the respect for them to tell them that, whether they're gonna understand it or not.
What I'm saying is, like, in every situation I've done that. I stand up, I tell them this is not working out, and I give them the reason why.
Yeah.
And then I try to walk away. And then it just goes in hysterical. I don't understand. That's the reason.
That's the reason we got out of it.
I'm saying, like, what we're talking about, like, what we're trying to, like, I feel like not being the douchebag or not being the toxic one, you're gonna be viewed like that either way.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're viewed like that. It's strictly
saying, like,
between
your heart what
you and that person. If they choose to go hysterical and cause a whole ass scene and all this bullshit and manipulate you, then you did what you were supposed to.
Did you break up with them
the
because of
morally
that?
right thing.
Did you know that they were like that, and then you broke up with them, and then, like, you got the result you expected?
A few times.
Yeah, so it's just like you broke up with him for that reason. Like, if you gotta walk into that prepared for what's about to happen. Like, if you know that they're gonna get wild.
Like, is a toxic experience. Like, it's not toxic, but the experience is toxic.
The experience can be toxic, but you don't have to
But
be
it's
the
on
toxic
their
one.
behalf. It's
you
on
can
their
walk
behalf.
into toxic
It's on
relationships
both
as a
of
healthy
your behalves,
person and
actually.
still stay
How,
the healthy
how
person.
is it on both your
You just
behalf?
don't stay that
Both
long to get
ending it,
toxified.
whether you're receiving it or you're starting
But
it.
it's not toxic of you to end it if it's for your best benefit.
But if,
Yeah.
like, maybe not to you, but usually to the other person, they're gonna view it like you're being toxic, no matter how you go about
But
it.
it doesn't matter how they view it. It matters how you view it.
Well, if you know how you react, or how you acted, not reacted, how you acted in that situation, no one can take that away from you.
Yeah, no one
You
can.
were there.
Yeah.
I agree.
Know how
You
you
write
saw
your
it.
own story, man.
Yeah, so it is. So how other people choose to view you, it really doesn't matter
Yeah.
because
You know what's right to you.
yeah,
you know what's true
know
to
what
you.
what was true. You at least have half of the story. Maybe not how they felt in your story, but you have half of the story,
Yeah.
and that's like, you know, how if it's two people, she can only pass along so much.
I think that's a
information.
trap a lot of people get into, especially myself when I was a lot younger in my like first relationships in my teenage years was like, shit, I forgot the point. I was thinking so much about it that I forgot where I was going. What was the last thing you said?
Oh jeez, dude.
Oh
I don't
jeez.
know. That was like 3 years ago.
Oh,
It's like 10 seconds ago, but
Time is relative.
fuck.
I've died and
We're
been
tired.
reborn 27 times already
Yeah.
since this podcast started.
I hate that I
I
missed
think
a
he
good
was
point.
talking about.
I'm so mad.
He was talking about it's true to you. You have half of the story.
Oh, we get caught up in wanting the other person
Thanks for listening.
to see us how we need them to see us after a relationship is over. And so it's just like, I don't, like, when you're breaking up with somebody, you don't have control over how they perceive you, but you get, especially if you don't want to be a bad person, you really get hung up on, like, I don't want them to see me as a bad person, but they might just, no matter how hard you try, see you as a bad person.
At
like,
that point, that's on them how they
right,
choose to react.
and that's the thing to think, that's the thing to feel, but some people miss that point, and then
Yeah.
you go on for years moping over that one point until it just gets so deep, and you're just carrying that sort of idealism into all your relationships, and it's just like, why isn't it all working out? Why does this always end shitty? Why do they think I'm a bad person? It's like, because you think you're a bad person.
Yeah, that
Like, you think you're a bad person, that's why.
Low confidence.
I think
Yeah.
it comes back to the being true to yourself part. Like, if it's true to you, it is true. It's all
Yeah.
perspective. That kind of brings it to the over. I don't know. A big theme in relationships is, you know, two people can disagree on a topic, and like we talked about compromise. There's no, okay, I'll sacrifice my belief to make you happy. Nothing like that. If something is true to you, that is the truth. And someone else's truth, even your partner's truth, might be different, but it's still true to them. And I think it's very important to respect that even though you differ in opinion, you could say something's right or wrong, but if it's true to that person, at least respect that that's what is their truth, and it's just as important as what your truth is. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really big problem for a lot of people in relationships.
Don't
is they
invalidate
can't
people's feelings.
they
Like,
can't agree to disagree.
validate how someone feels. Like, if they're feeling a certain way, try your best to meet them at their feelings. Don't
Yeah.
meet them at their reason. Don't meet them at their logic. Meet them at where they feel.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if someone goes off on you and you're just like, I understand you're really angry, you just remain calm and just like, I understand you're really angry. I can see why you feel that way. It's just like,
But only only
apologize
say it
if you need
mean
to
it.
apologize. If you don't feel the need to apologize, stand your ground and be yourself.
Yeah, only say it if
But-
you mean it. If you don't
yeah.
understand why they're reacting this way, you can say,
Yeah.
hey, I acknowledge that your feelings are true to you, but I want to understand why you feel this way, and I don't. So can we have a conversation about that? Don't just say, well, I understand how you feel, if you don't. Because
Yeah.
then there's that.
And
that
don't ever be like, I hear
fakeness.
you, because it's
Yeah.
just like, I don't want you to hear me. I want you to listen to me.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to listen to everything I'm giving you right now.
It's like, oh
It's
yeah, I hear you. I get it.
Yeah, and
It's
then,
like, no,
like,
you don't.
when it goes to like, breaking up with someone too, like, you realize that you're to the point of breaking up because there's a lot that's probably been held back. Most relationships that break up I don't think they break up in the most healthy ways, as far as I can tell. But
It's almost unnatural to break up with, like,
without
I
there
just have a
being
different
some
perspective.
sort of like high energy emotion happening,
Let's be real here. It's somewhat toxic. It is.
What? Breaking up?
There's ugliness in it. Undeniable ugliness.
Well, if it's on their part.
Even if you both go about it right, there's something about it that's toxic, bro.
It's an overload. It's an overload of endorphins. And
I don't
want
to look at it that way.
In the moment, if both parties acknowledged like it was toxic, they could have just split up and been like, I actually feel a lot freer.
Both people can
there's
mutually
acute
agree
breakups
that
and there's
this is
chronic
what's
breakups.
better.
There's a breakup that one person sort of and then they walk in, dump it on him, and it's boom. Or it's just two people are like, and they just slowly
mutually
sort of
agree.
pull it apart, and then some people can mutually agree and then separate at that point once it fizzles out. But some people pull apart. One person tries to chase back, and then that person, whenever they turn around, it just slings in on them, and then they're just like, yeah, I'm out of here, and then they're like, fuck. And so it's just like, because they were gonna give up, and then they tried, and then they gave up on them. Like, that's a shitty feeling. Like, if you're trying in a relationship, you realize it's not kind of working, you fall out of place for a little bit, but then you realize you're being stupid for some reason or whatever, and you're like, okay, I want to do better, and you try, but that person's already kind of given up on you,
because
and it becomes this vicious cycle back and forth of where like one person's chasing the other person. Like you can never just both turn around at the same time.
It's because you fell back, and they acknowledge that you fell back, and immediately from that point they realize they have to emotionally detach. And so once they've already started that emotional detachment, it's always gonna be like a back and forth kind of a thing. Like you said, it's not gonna. I don't know.
The reason I say it's like it is a general statement. Like there's undeniable like toxicity in it. It's just because we all are toxic people to a certain level. That person is inside
plastic in
of
our
us.
blood.
That person is inside of us, just like that shitty person is inside of us.
Yeah, we
just
all
like
got
that
darkness.
Aspiring person is inside of us, just like that leader person is inside of us, just like that follower is inside of us, and that comes alive in relationships. So like whether the breakup wasn't toxic, the things that led there were toxic, and to say it's because of 100% one person, come on. Even if it's 10% to 100%, there's stuff that happens on both sides. Yeah. Relationships are not consistently toxic, but they have they all have toxic aspects in them that have to be tamed constantly to the point where they're just controlled so they don't pop up all the time.
Well, we're not the Mormons. We don't live in a pure and clean world.
We don't.
There's some weird.
That's what I was trying to say.
We're exposed to toxic shit all day. We're exposed to breathing in gas fumes. We sometimes eat things that we shouldn't. Sometimes we don't get enough sun. Sometimes we get too much sun. We're always getting bombarded by radioactive particles everywhere we go, and we're slowly degrading into fucking dust again. But for this time being, you're in this body, man, and you're doing your thing. You're this
body can heal, and
Yeah.
I'm one person that truly believes that the human body itself is immortal, because all it ever does is repair itself based on what you eat. If you never eat a wrong meal for your whole life and have a healthy mind and a healthy kind of exercise routine, you're active, you think positively, and you only feed your body positive ingredients and healthy ingredients, you physically there's nothing basically causing your death other than some random disease kind of related to that.
Anything can fucking kill you though.
Yeah, well exactly. But in terms of physical, you are physically. Yeah, well that's what I'm saying. You're physically active. You feed your soul. You're a happy individual. You have a great mindset. You're always working towards
healthy
something.
Diet.
Healthy diet. Just the optimum human being in terms of health.
Right.
Technically, they can live for. Their body would just continue to regenerate.
But how that works for each body is so different.
Well, exactly. Obviously, it would continue to degrade, but also based off.
There's triple digits who eat bacon and wine every day.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some people whose bodies.
Triple digits are very common nowadays.
They're getting longer.
Yeah.
But then there's people who eat ice cream and bacon and bullshit all day and are 95 pounds.
Yeah.
It affects everybody.
That's because they work out a lot, probably.
No, there's just some people who just never gain weight.
Yeah.
I won't gain weight.
One of my girlfriends like that.
My life at all.
Her family is very tall and lanky, and I think it was just a thyroid thing, but they all just constant carbohydrates all the time, and just sweets and treats and all that. Just her body ran off of sugar and she never gained a pound. I worry about. I've always worried about it because I think she's gonna work her way into being diabetic.
Well, it's just
I hope that she's eats more vegetables now. I wish
there's
her the best.
obviously other health issues other than weight, Like, you know, someone could eat a bunch of fatty foods and their arteries can be blocked to hell. But they could still be 95 pounds. But their arteries could just
be... Yeah, you can have shit arteries that look great.
Food is relative to your body, though. Like, there are certain foods that, like, are... I think I was talking to you about it, that build up plaque, but, like, it depends what you're doing to perform. Like, you might be performing at a high level and you might be eating healthy foods, but those foods might not be, like, recovering your body the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. And only, like, you can have
medicine. Sorry.
Exactly. Like, if you're a skinny person and you're trying to stay in the NFL, you probably need food with, like, heavy amounts of, like, bullshit in it to keep your weight on while you're working out. Because you're running so much to the point where, like, your heart's fine. Your heart can work through all of that stuff. Yeah. It's like, because for me, when my fat ass toe, which kind of hurts today, gets better properly, and I can do other things besides weightlifting, I'm gonna take Sensei's advice, but I'm gonna have to eat what's gonna put weight on while I'm doing that, or keep weight on.
What'd you do to hurt your toe, Nick?
Just playing with a dog.
What happened, Nick?
I hit my toe in the wall.
And how did that make you feel, Nick?
Angry.
Angry, scared, lonely.
Not scared.
Everything is broken. Everything is broken.
Angry, lonely, confused.
Yeah. Distorted reality.
Very high.
Going back on a little bit ago, I think people live avoiding death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we live and avoid death, like we run away from death, like it's not going to happen. Like, but we all know that we're all going to die, and like we all run away from that. We all run away from that thought very often. But like when you just like accept that, when you turn around and just accept that, like I'm going to die. And the truth is, I don't know when I'm going to.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and it's where like the YOLO comes from. But like some people use YOLO to just drink themselves to death or whatever. But
doing cocaine.
Yeah, but there's also people who are like, you know what? I'm gonna wake up every day and try to be a better person. Like I'm gonna wake up every day and try to be kind in each interaction that I have.
Fuck those pussies. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but you can also wake up every day and just be like, you know what? I'm going to be exactly who I am. I'm going to tell people who the fuck they are, and I'm just going to be a truth giver all the way. And it's going to be it's going to be my giver of the truth. It's going to be my truth that I'm giving to everybody, but I think my truth is the truth. So here you go. Like you can be that way too. You choose your fucking existence here.
I think everyone lives life.
I'm just saying, quit trying to avoid that you're going to die. Like be you.
Everyone lives life to avoid death to a certain extent.
It's called survival.
For some people it's different because for those who have lost a lot of people and see death regularly, and that's something they haven't fully coped with, they probably live a lot more conservatively because they're so terrified of death because they know how common it is. Whereas someone who hasn't lost a lot of family, someone who hasn't really experienced death, hasn't had to cope with it, they're just kind of like, they've never been surrounded by it, so they don't know the feeling of it, I think. So they almost live completely differently because they're not afraid of it. Whereas, same thing, someone who's constantly been surrounded by it and knows how it feels will live much more conservatively.
We've talked a lot about. Go ahead. I'm gonna jump to a different thing.
I don't think everyone is scared of death. I think it's a really general statement. Everyone is avoiding death. We're not all avoiding death.
No, but the thing is
to an extent.
But if you think about it, think about food. To an extent, people eat food to avoid death because if you do not eat or you do not drink water, you will die. So the fact that you eat food every day and you drink water every day is to avoid death.
Yeah, guys, but I was saying
some people like some people are eating to live, to do the adrenaline junkie things that they do.
Yeah, but to live to do those things. To live to do those things.
They're not doing it to try to die. They're doing it to try to feel alive.
They're doing it to try and live longer so they can do those things.
True.
And experience those things.
True. But I don't think everyone. I thought you were saying it kind of like in a fear sense, where not everyone's scared.
People are
no, not scared, just avoiding.
The whole reason we're here is because we wanted to live this presence and this existence. So I feel like we're here for a reason. Like we want to stay here as long as possible. We chose to be here. Yeah. Obviously, some people are like, "Shit, forgot something. Let me make a U-turn," and have to come back as somebody else.
A lot of people don't. Go ahead.
Yeah. But like just while you're here, just kind of like enjoy while you're here. I completely forgot what
You're-
I was talking
and
about.
most people-
Buddhist?
most
you
people-
say you were a Buddhist? Is that like your kind? What's
I
your
don't have
primary
any.
way?
I just believe in like existing. Like all I know is.
Sort of
this.
That's what I was gonna
existentialism
say,
a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Huh?
like existentialism.
I don't know. It's I forgot the exact name of it. I just saw it the other day again.
Existentialism is like the belief that we are
Well-
here, we exist, and you can be a more.
I'm not really
yeah.
like I don't.
You don't
Cause I see,
define it, I feel
well, I
like.
see Buddhism as a
Yeah.
religion.
You can
I'm
be
not
like
really, I'm not
yeah.
religious. I'm purely just like
Spiritualist.
spiritual.
Spiritual.
Literally, spiritualistic. I don't know
No,
if that's a religion.
well, that's what I was gonna say though. Was
I don't
like
think we're
was
supposed to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say kind of real quick what he said was like we're not.
I think there's a line between like the spiritual, like there's a between
Forgot.
spiritual and it's like spiritual and agnostic. They're like existentialism can like be on both sides of that spectrum. It's like you can be sort of an agnostic existentialist and be like, we're here, we exist. This all might be probability. There all might be some sort of creator. We don't really know. We're just kind of living this experience, and you can take whatever perception you want from
Yeah.
there.
That's what I remembered.
right.
It was literally like most people don't know what exists beyond this. A lot of people think they know based off their religion, based off their beliefs, or based off maybe a past experience they remember.
Yeah.
But most people don't genuinely know what is after this life that we live
Most
right
of us
now.
Nobody does.
So well, yeah. So they a lot. I think I almost am confident to say everyone strives to avoid death because this life is all they know. And I'm sure next life or whatever they believe the next step is, they're gonna learn how to, manage that also. But right now, this is what we know. So
Mhm.
at least try and live this life as happy and as long as possible.
And not that like we don't know a lot about. We know so little about life through our perception. Like
Yeah.
I guarantee you, most of the world
We live in a simulation.
don't know what's 100 feet below them, or what's 100 feet above them. Like they don't know about what's 100 feet below them. Like what's down there? What's down 100 feet below you? They're like, and they'll tell you something. Dirt. I don't know. But then like you look 100 feet above you, you're like, okay, like
Sky.
what's that? How far does that go?
When it comes to like
what are those things out there?
When it comes to like the
Twinkly
other
boys.
universe and hippies and hipsters and it's just like
What?
Where are you going?
Yeah.
no, like what I'm saying is
Yeah.
we have like this cool trippy facade of focusing on the next life and being a fucking. We're supposed to focus on this shit.
We
There's
gotta
a
put
reason
idols
we
to
don't-
every idea.
There's a
for
reason
them to
we
make
don't
sense to us.
we don't know shit about the next life is because we're experiencing this, and if there is
Well,
one,
People do
we have
that.
to do what's we need to do here first.
I
But
think
people
people are always
do
just
that
thinking
though. They
all the time.
create this other life after death like fantasy because they're scared to die. They're scared that once they die, they don't know what's next, so they want to convince themselves. Yeah, they want to convince themselves that this is my next step and this is what's gonna happen because people are terrified of the unknown. So they want to convince themselves they know what's next, so it makes them comfortable to die. It's literally just the same thing, people's fear of death. That brings on that fantasy.
Shit was deep, man.
Yeah.
I've come across people who always talk about it though.
Yeah.
Like they're calling for the next life and shit. Like they fucking know. Like they really believe in this shit.
I mean, hey, if you tell yourself something enough times, you will start to believe it. People start to believe their own lies. People start to believe whatever they tell themselves every second of every day.
Yeah. See, like, I don't think there's a lot of individual thought patterns that we get into, but I think for the majority, like, most of the human pattern is the same. Like, generally, like, we have our certain needs that we need to meet as human beings, like, so we go about them. It's just like, but each person has a little bit of spice to it that you're just like, okay, like, you are human, you do human things, but something happened. Or something is happening.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Meeting people's weird.
People, yeah.
I find so much interest in each person that I meet. It's just like, because I realize the uniqueness in people, and so just like, sometimes it's interesting, like, sometimes you see groups of similar characters together, and you're like, it's It's a weird little bunch. Like got some lollipop guild action going over there, but
well, there's always that those groups where it's like the same. Every group has the same dynamic. So it's like it's like 5 dudes. Like one's this, one's this, one's this.
Like any devout religious group.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Christianity, Mormonism, Jewish. They're like any institutionalized religion. Like if you get to the level of devoutness where like you're going to church at least every week and you're kind of doing what your higher power in that institution says, like you're gonna start to like be similar to the people around you because you're all hearing the same shit, doing the same thing. And some people feel safety and security in that. I think that's what religion's for. And the world's insane. So why wouldn't you naturally want some safety and security? It's a need.
It's all about naked humans or animals.
Yeah. Yeah. Something about that. What are you talking about? Naked humans or animals? Like you talking about Genesis? What are you talking about?
The gods, like the gods that people have created. Like almost always wearing like the least amount of clothing
and they all have penises and vaginas.
Yeah, right, weird. No, but yeah, so like gods of like not like any religion have literally just been these like animal or human figures. Like we've never brought anything to attention of like I guess like we admire shapes for what they are, but we've never like appreciated like the triangle, the circle. This sounds like a weird conversation, but like
no, I
everyone
get where you're
takes
going
it for very like granite things, and it's like no, like every form. You know, when people are learning how to draw, it's all shapes. It's all shapes and lines.
Yeah, we start out with the basics.
Yeah, it's always shapes and lines, and like so these shapes created everything, and everyone's just like always focused on the final product instead of like the very like start of what.
And it's funny when you watch little kids draw, like when they first start drawing, like it's a lot of just spirals. Like they just spiral around because it just feels natural to spiral, and then a lot of like 8 straight up and down lines, and then like they'll get stabby and they'll just dot it. So it's just like they're like what's been built into us as humans. Like right when we start to grip things as babies and start like drawing around and doing stuff, like it comes to a point where like once they figure out that they can do it with intention, they'll start to do it with intention, and they'll start to make shapes. And like if you get a kid doing art like that early enough, you'll be able to just read who they are as a human and their emotions, because they'll just literally do all of their art off of emotion. And so it's just like, oh, okay, so this is how you're feeling. Like it's a really I think that's definitely, when I'm a parent, that's something that I'll do, is just like just let the kid just do some like physical art, like let them get their mind and emotions into something very early, because I think it's important to teach emotional regulation, because if you don't teach emotional regulation, you're going to have a very hard time developing strong, lasting relationships in the future. So it's really important. Facts. Bruh? Anybody got anything else on love and relationships?
That's what I'm trying to think.
Fuck bitches, get money.
Jesus Christ, Nick. You know what? That's a way of being. Be you. There's bitches who want to get fucked.
Get
There's bitches who want to get money.
And Jesus the Christ.
Start taking that.
Praise God.
Stop being a trifling asshole.
Oh my gosh.
I thought you wanted
Nick
to fuck. Okay.
Nick is mad at females today.
He's angry at females today.
That's
what's going on, Nick.
It's alright.
That's how it comes off.
It's very easy to get mad at females.
We're talking about love and relationships.
Yeah. Well, if you're
but it's sort of like, are you gay?
There's
Is that your way of coming out? If you're just saying fuck females.
Okay.
I think you've asked this.
Here's a question. Does a healthy relationship exist if you've never gotten mad at them? If you've never gotten mad at them ever, like
you did not meet a female.
Yeah.
But same thing
that
with
sounds
males.
Sexist.
No, same thing with males. If you've never gotten mad at a male, you've probably never met a male.
Yeah. If you're
ways.
the opposite if you're the opposite sex, whatever sex that you're attracted to is your sex. If you meet the thing you're attracted to and you're around it long enough, it's gonna agitate you, and it's gonna agitate you because it's sort of a catch-22, because you're attracted to this, but also like
it's different.
You don't like
you.
what this thing said
because it doesn't understand you. Because whether people like to believe this or not, males and females are different, biologically, mentally, emotionally, physically.
I could have told you that.
Males and females are different. So if you're attracted to the opposite sex,
I think that
you're going to get mad. You're gonna get mad that they don't understand you fully, and that is okay.
That's
that
what you're
is
supposed
normal.
to tell them.
That you as
use
long
your
as
words,
you communicate,
baby. Use your words.
As long as you communicate with them, it's okay that they don't fully understand you. It's not the end of the world. That's literally life.
You're lying.
I'm lying?
I'm just kidding.
It's the
goodness.
end of the world
As we know it.
I like that song.
It's a good song. Make that the song of the week. That'd be great.
Indeed.
Song of the week.
Oh, hey, if y'all want to add any of your music to the Facebook page, just send me whatever links you want, and I'll put them on the Finding Home Facebook page, because I know you've been making a lot of music, or you have a lot of music, to just another platform to put it on.
Oh yeah.
And if any of y'all make music, or we make music or anything, we'll put it up. It'll be a good time.
It's the end of the world
But as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
Nice.
Well, how long have we been going? A minute?
hour and some minutes.
Hour and some minutes? Well, alright.
Nice.
You think we touched everything on love and relationships? Is there any more questions?
There
about
will
love and
be
relationships?
multiple
We're gonna
episodes
smoke
on love
another
and
bowl. Just keep going.
relationships. I think.
Just keep going. Let it roll.
What?
Yo, next question
Wait, what?
or random tangent.
Just tangent. Let it
Let's
roll.
just tangent. Because we gotta label this episode.
Yeah.
But
Okay, I got one.
alright.
I got one.
Is it a would you rather?
Do you think it is cheating if you are in a relationship and your significant other goes to a strip club?
Hell no.
Because this answer is very different for men and women.
It's
So
different.
I wanna
It's
know.
different.
I don't think it's like, yo, are you going?
It's-
It
but
depends
it's-
why you're
What
going.
is your intention of going to the strip
Why are you
club?
going? Is your boy getting married next week? Like,
No,
are you going
it's
to a
like-
party?
Well, it's like.
But I'm talking.
Or are you going to throw bills? If you're going to throw bills and get dances, and
It's
flex,
all about the amount of insecurity you
different.
have and the trust you have for that person.
Yeah, but I'm saying for
negative place in
because
general.
men
about
and
yourself.
women will answer this question very differently. Not all the time. Not nothing general, but like most times men and women will answer this
But
question.
let's be honest, who
very differently.
doesn't love ass and titties?
But I'm saying
Okay, guys.
if the one person, if one side
Doesn't
of
mean
the
I don't like 'em.
partnership, if
They're
one
just not sexually attracted to them. I think everybody will play with
If
boobs no matter
one-
what you are.
if one side of the relationship views it as physical, emotional, or mental cheating, isn't it cheating?
Going to a strip
Did
club,
you
dude, like it depends.
It depends on when you had the conversation.
Going to the strip club in Florida is a lifestyle. Everyone goes to the strip
It depends on any relationship if you've had that conversation. Because like if you've never had the conversation and you're like, I'm going to the strip club, you don't have a right to tell them not to because you haven't had that conversation. Let them go, let them do that thing, and just be like, hey, I know we haven't had this conversation, and I'm not mad at you. That's cool, but at the same time,
You gotta tell your partner. Though,
yeah,
if
you
you're
gotta.
going to
You're
strip
like,
club.
I
You
don't
gotta
feel
tell
comfortable with you going to strip clubs. And it's just like, is that something that you really want to do? Need to do? It's a conversation you need to have if you want that to be a thing that's important
I'm not
to you.
saying
I
it's-
agree. So this is my thing. Like, if you go to the strip club all the time and you're in a relationship, that's kind of cheating. Like, if it's a niche you have, like, oh, I like this, it's like a good hobby, like, that's weird. But if you're going to the strip club because, like, there's a gathering there, because people, like, in Florida, people gather at the strip club for multiple reasons. Celebration, like, I'm not
Buddy's doing
I'm not
this,
gonna trip
homie's
over
gonna
my
be there.
girlfriend going to a strip club because her girl is going
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, so
that's
that
the
the
point.
whole point of this example
So you're
was
saying,
for
like, it's consistent?
If you
Well,
go
no,
to the
no,
strip
no.
club, be you,
the whole point.
so she knows.
Oh wait,
The whole
it's
point of
cheating
this
if you throw dollar bills though. It is cheating if you throw dollar bills.
It's cheating if it's cheating if you've discussed this exact situation in your relationship, and you set boundaries and then you cross the boundaries. That's cheating because that's breaking the rules of the engagement that you have.
Well, yeah.
It's like, but if you haven't set boundaries for that thing, you cannot begrudgingly hold it against each other for doing something you haven't talked
But
about.
so the example that example was meant for this overarching question of if one half of the relationship views something as cheating and they've
Right.
explained that to you and then you still do that thing,
Or
even if you don't see it as cheating, it's still cheating, right? As long as one
Well-
half believes truly that it is and they've expressed that to
if
you.
you've expressed that boundary and that boundary is being consistently disrespected, it depends on how much. First, you have to ask yourself, how much does this boundary really mean to me?
Mm-hmm.
For one, because you can settle it right then and there. If you're like, I'm just making a stupid boundary because I'm kind of in my own head and I want to be
Insecure,
right.
upset, yeah.
And you're like, it takes a reflection of self. But if it's a boundary that you feel violates you on like a very foundational way or in a human way, and you're like, this is kind of fucked up, like that's when you need to really consider that relationship as a whole. But sometimes like don't cut yourself short. Like if you have a boundary, respect it for sure, but just think, is this really fair? A big deal? Is this fair because for how much we discussed? Is this fair to them?
There will be people in relationships who will be like, oh my gosh, what's a good example? Oh, he hugged a girl that was his friend for years. He went up to her, saw her after like a couple years, gave her a hug, and was like, hey, what's up? There are people in relationships who will literally call that cheating. That's crazy, so that's my point, is like
sort of
we like to agree that if half the relationship thinks it's cheating, then it is. But then at the same time, if you're, say it's just a girlfriend boy, if your girlfriend is telling you, I think it's cheating if you hug your girl like best friend who you haven't seen in years, and you think that's ridiculous, and you try to communicate with them, and you keep butting heads because one side won't give in, because on one hand you're like, that's freaking ridiculous, it's my friend, but then on the other hand it's like she genuinely sees it as cheating.
I would give them the most politely and loving fuck off. I'd be like, don't tell me what to do. Like, I like you, you're great, you can have conversations with me, but don't tell me what I can and can't do.
If it's gonna
That's
be
my
like
one
on
boundary
that
is don't
level.
tell me what I can and can't do.
Like,
I'll take your advice, but be respectful.
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell me how you feel. It is still. It's not a don't do this. It's a this is how I feel in the situation.
If you still
in layman's terms, don't be a bitch about it.
Yeah, and if you choose to repeat that action, then it's up to that person, like how they
is this relationship worth it? If you're genuinely upset and you think it's cheating if your boyfriend hugs his girl who's a friend or friend who's a girl, and you explain that to him and he politely says, fuck off, don't tell me what to do, and he continues to do that thing, that's up to the girl to decide.
That guy's got any kind of balls.
No, but that's up to the girl though to say, you know what, this is a relationship ender, and walk away.
Right.
Because
don't give up without trying.
That girl also needs a lot of help though.
If you give a fuck about that person, don't give up without trying to fix it.
Oh yeah. Obviously.
If it's a genuine relationship that you like, if it's somebody you just met, you've went on 2 dates, and they're throwing some red flags at you, like just book it.
Just walk away.
Don't deal with it.
Don't
literally
waste
when
your
you
time.
walk by them from now on, give them a high five. It's so
no, just like try to be as healthy as possible. Like avoid them if you need to. If you still get weird vibes or something, but like know the red flags early. But if you've been with someone for, I don't know,
keep talking,
6 or 7 months or whatever, and you've been talking for a while, and it's just like, hey, like, I know we've been around each other, especially if one person's having feelings and shit. Just like talk to that person, be like, this is how I feel, this is my boundary, this isn't really cool, and like, at the very least, just like let them have that information. Really absorb how they respond to that information, because that's a good thing to know too.
Yeah.
And then like if they respond in a certain way that you don't like that's fair grounds to be like, all right, this isn't working. But you try to have that conversation. But it's just like a lot of people just dip out and give up on people because they see people as options, because they have this illusion that there's just so many options. There
could always be someone better. There could always be someone better.
Yeah,
no matter
if trying to upgrade, like you're fucking perfect.
Yeah, if you find someone that you think is better, you are never going to have the same relationship with a different person. Yeah. So I that is like one of my biggest pet peeves is you'll be in a relationship and they'll treat you fantastic and you'll love them and all this stuff, but then you're like, but I think there's someone better out there, and then you go and find that better person, and then you're like, oh shit, I didn't realize how good that other person used to treat me, and then they try and go back, and it's like, you literally left to find something better, realize you're never gonna have a similar relationship, just better, and then try to go back.
But you know why people get back in those relationships after all that shit happens? Because they see themselves as an option. They see themselves as, I'm just another choice. If you know within yourself,
we are
like,
just another choice though.
Right, but you can't see yourself that way. You gotta say like, 100%. You gotta say, I am the fucking option.
But to think we all people get so mad. I think when you said it, it's like we all have multiple options when we're playing the field though. Right. And like people who are like, that's so wrong that you were talking to that person.
I'm the fucking option, but you don't have to choose me.
Yeah.
You don't have. You're free to choose whatever you want. But if you're going to choose me, I am the option. Like, don't make me a choice if you're not going to allow me to be an option.
Don't back out.
Don't back out. Don't back out. Like, just fucking ride or die. I'll ride or
If
die
you
for
made
you.
a bad decision, then that's different. Like,
Yeah.
you can make a decision to get out of
A
it.
bond is a bond, and I feel like people don't respect that shit.
Yeah. Whack.
It is whack.
It is whack.
I concur.
Whack.
Tagginess and wackiness.
Protagonist.
Diesel, fat
I
boy.
can kiss the protagonist.
Yee.
Diesel, say some wise
Diesel,
words.
you're a
again.
good kitty.
He's a doggo.
He's silky. You're silky.
He doesn't like being
sheets.
called a kitty.
The dude.
He's upset about the lights.
Yeah.
I think we broke him.
Everything is broken.
Can't break anything that's already broken.
Stop hitting.
Have we said enough for today?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. We've all spoke our piece.
We'll
I
definitely
was
have
gonna-
another
We'll touch back,
episode.
I was
Probably.
going to ask.
There'll be a part 2.
What is the and ended on this? What is the thing that you guys love most, and the most, and the closest to?
Whoa, hold on. There was a lot. That's a loaded question.
What do you love most?
What do I love most?
Yeah, we'll end it on that.
The chance to be here.
Love.
He stole mine.
That's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah, mine was love
I'm glad we all
too.
agree.
Love itself.
I don't think
Nick
love
is mad at women today, so he wasn't
We're all
gonna
allowed our
choose
different
love.
I didn't
opinions.
think that. I was gonna ask that.
What?
I just feel like your energy just seems so
No,
like.
he's a beautiful antagonist. He
Yeah.
he has a way of just describing everything.
I'm not mad at anyone.
I'm not saying you're mad.
I'm a man, so my
Antagonist
experience,
doesn't
my
mean bad.
anger experiences in love relationships
You're just
are
good-
only with women. So
You're just
like,
good at playing devil's
if we're
advocate,
gonna-
man.
Yeah, that's just what I do, dog.
Yeah, no. It was just. It wasn't meant to be serious. It was more of just like a.
Then why don't we just call you Little Nicky?
Yeah,
can't.
Little Nicky.
He's the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler movie, Little Nicky.
I love that movie.
I kind of just play.
Oh, I want to
But,
watch that movie so
I
bad.
guess
watch
We
it
should
tonight.
that movie.
I like the.
You want to watch Little
Please.
Nicky?
Diego, if I had to say, like, I like the chance, just like the chance of being here the most, cause like with it, like that's the chance to love, the chance
Yeah.
to hate, the chance to be destroyed, to be destroyed. I love the
present.
yeah, like I love the chance that everything presents in every second of the day, cause everything can just turn in a second, and that's what's so cool about it. That's why we're here working towards like our goals, cause it could just flip.
Always.
And with that, please like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for listening.
Stop being a trifling asshole.
Oh God.
Bye.
Bye guys. We'll see you
Welcome
next
to
time.
the United
Beautiful
States.
people.
Love ya.